Hello people, I am the Random Bug. In this series, we will make a multiplayer game, a chess game to be exact, just to keep everything simple. In order to do this, we will have to tackle one of nature's most dangerous beasts. Oh, this is going to be fun. Anyways, that's enough talk, let's get coding. Okay, first things first. We need a way to draw things in the browser using JavaScript. I decided to use P5, which is an awesome JavaScript library, very intuitive to use as well. Setting up the board was really easy, just draw an 8x8 grid. Next step is to draw the chess pieces, also really easy to do. If the pieces I used look familiar to you, that's because I copied them from Wikipedia. The thing is, I didn't want to use other people's work, so I drew my own pieces. I know I'm using a library that other people wrote, but shh. It's worth noting that I'm bad at drawing, but I really felt like this would give such a generic game a bit of a personal touch. This is the finished result, and I have to say, I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Except for the pawns, they look like dildos. Anyways, back to coding. We now have to implement our new and completely original pieces. Should be easy, right? Just switch the images around and... oh shit, the hell happened? There we go. Now that we're done with the baby stuff, it's time to move on to something a little bit more complicated. Just giving the player the ability to move a piece is no big challenge. Just pick it up and put it down. The fun starts when you try to constrain the squares a piece can move to. So, for example, a pawn can only move one square forward, a bishop only on the diagonals, and so on. But it's not that simple. See, a pawn cannot move forward if there is another piece blocking its way, but it can move to the sides if there is an enemy piece there. It can also move two squares if it is its first turn. And that's just from a game mechanics point of view. The technical part is not that hard, but it can lead to a lot of bugs if you're not paying attention. Not that I would have such a problem. My coding mentor, Mr. Basil over here, has taught me well. Back to code. Here are a few issues that I had to address. Say that for each pawn you check these squares to see if there is an enemy piece that the pawn can capture. That's fine, but what about this pawn? You can check the square on the left, but there is no square on the right, and trying to check a square that doesn't exist is no good. Okay, here's a harder one. This bishop cannot move because the king would be in check. If you try to come up with a way of fixing that, you might think it's easy. And it is. The way I wrote my code made it more difficult than it needed to be. Whoops! And finally, with all that in mind, it's time to finish writing this game. And finally, after hours upon hours of hard work, the game is done. The players now need to take turns moving the pieces, and they can only move them to the appropriate squares. One of the more challenging things to do was to stop the pieces from moving if the king would be in check after that move. But, as you can see, it all works properly. Okay, maybe it's not perfect, but it's all I had time to do in this episode. I will finish the game in the next episode or two, with the hopes of putting it in a fully functioning website where people can play against each other. If you liked the video, you know what to do. And if you didn't, then why did you even watch it, you tasteless son of a...